by Mr. Holloway and Anna Soubry. Welcome to you both. Let's start by having a look at the I newspaper and this story, the headline there, supermarket bosses hit back at PM's plan to cap food prices. Anna, explain this cap on food prices, basic essentials, first of all.
Well, I think this is an idea to grab a headline, probably in today's Sunday papers, that the government, the Prime Minister, has said that they're going to try to persuade the supermarkets to enter into a voluntary agreement whereby certain key essential foodstuffs are capped. Now, in my view, this is as I say, an attempt just to get a nice, easy headline. But of course now, the detail, or rather the opposition and the reality of this idea is unravelling. And so and it's not so much the supermarkets, actually the British Retail Consortium are quite rightly saying this is just not going to work. They make the point, which I think is a fair point, that most supermarkets actually are desperate to get customers in by saying our prices are cheaper than our opposition prices. So they are already slashing their prices. They're doing these club card deals as well. And of course, any attempt to put a cap on food prices, actually the reality is the people it hits are the producers, notably also the farmers. And in simple terms, it doesn't work. And now the government finds themselves in a position whereby a number of the papers rightly are reporting the fact that what sounds like a good idea is actually a pretty rubbish idea.
Lester, is it essentially a good idea, though, to want to cap the price of basic food essentials for the public?
Well, I think a lot of people will be crying out for lower prices, and although obviously Anna is absolutely right that the supermarkets themselves are trying to keep prices low because they have bought in advance a lot of their produce and foodstuffs, it's taken a very long time for the reduction in inflation to feed through. So if there were price caps, then it would be a temporary condition. So it would be a temporary hit on supermarkets. But as Anna said, there is no price cap, and we're in a very strange situation where the government is saying this is an entirely voluntary scheme. The supermarket, the retailers are actually saying it won't work. But we've got tomorrow's newspapers that are really talking up the idea that it is a real price cap which the government wants to impose, which is clearly not the case at all. But the reason why food it matters so much is because it's going up at 20%. I know the newspapers today are saying that it's predicted to be around 15% inflation on food, but generally it's been 20% recently. Rents have been going up 20% as well, and inflation has only just come down from double figures. So this is really unaffordable for many people. We've got 3 million people that are using Trussell Trust food banks alone. So something needs to be done, and we're not going to have a price cap, but as a result, people are going to be squeezed even more.
Yes, and Anna, as the Express points to, the price cap, the supermarkets are saying, actually won't reduce food bills, and that's what the public need and want.
Yes, but it's not as simple as saying put a price cap on, and everybody, whatever your political views are, whether you're a supermarket owner, even the people who are desperate to see prices go down because they're working in food banks or they're campaigning quite properly to alleviate poverty. Everybody's saying this is not the way to do it, and it's not going to achieve it. Now, look, as Lester was saying, we have food inflation running at somewhere in the region of 19%. Apparently tomorrow it might go down to 15%, but it is still very high, and it's one of the highest in the world. And what we should be doing is looking at why it's a particular problem in the United Kingdom, and is there anything that the government can do, not asking the supermarkets, keep setting, this is meant to be a voluntary scheme to cap prices, but looking at why our food bills are going up in this incredibly high way. And the FT and other papers are looking at analysing that. One of the reasons, and it's only one reason, is because we have left the single market, because of Brexit. We don't have the free movement of all those components that often go into food and food production. It hits food production particularly hard when goods can't come in and out of the country as they used to when we were a member of the European Union. There are other reasons as well, of course. There's the war in Ukraine, the rise in energy, and of course we have the problem with wages that are often going up, but not in the same proportion as food prices. So it is complex, but it just seems that everybody is saying this just looks like a cheap headline. But the reality of it is, it's not going to happen, and it isn't going to solve the problem, do the trick.
Yes, many finding holes in the price cap, the idea of the price cap. One, that it is a voluntary scheme, Lester, and also what about those further down the chain, the farmers? I mean, what happens to their prices?
Well, absolutely, and of course that's the $6 million question. But I think sometimes this consensus that price caps won't work is something worth unpicking itself, because France has imposed a price cap on staple foods. So we've shown that a major economy can do that. So it's something worth considering rather than just throwing that idea out. But you're absolutely right, Gillian, that there is a question about the food producers. But as I say, this could be a temporary measure because prices are coming down, but food prices will take a long time to catch up with that. And perhaps we need to consider some government intervention to the sector in order to deal with these rising food prices, which are simply unaffordable for so many people.
And Anna, we read in the Financial Times that also Conservative MPs are very critical of this price cap, and there's a backlash within the party.
Yes, I mean, I'm not somebody who normally agrees with people like Sir John Redwood or Ian Duncan Smith. Those are two of the people quoted by the FT as saying, actually, if you're a free market Conservative, what on earth is a Conservative government doing, getting involved in the market and doing sort of back to the 70s idea of putting caps on prices? And it is quite extraordinary to hear this coming from a Conservative government. But I think it shows that they know that this is, as Lester rightly identifies, this is hitting the lives of real people. And of course, when food goes up, it disproportionately affects poorer people because they spend a higher proportion of their income, such as it is, on food. So the government recognises all of this, and it's floundering around, doesn't really know what to do. And it thinks a price cap it will get, as I say, a cheap headline, and I think it's backfired.
Lester, let's move on to the elections in Turkey, and President Erdogan has secured another 5 years. The official numbers and votes come in a couple of days' time, but that's academic. He has declared victory in the elections in Turkey.
Yes, he has. I think that will disappoint many people who dismayed over the last few years with Erdogan increasing authoritarian administration. But he looks like he's won against his rival Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, and that's the situation that we've actually got. But the fact that it was almost neck and neck, I think is actually a result of the fact that inflation is around 85%, or it was last October, at extraordinary figures. But also, Erdogan has been accused of, a lackluster approach to the earthquakes, which have been felt in Turkey as well. But interestingly, the papers are suggesting that the reason why Erdogan eventually won was because between the first vote and the runoff, which we've just had the results of, turnout dipped heavily in the big cities where the opposition leader Kılıçdaroğlu originally had strong support, and provinces which supported Erdogan, their turnout didn't drop as much. So it would be interesting to find out why that is. What really went on between the first vote and the second vote.
Yes, and the opposition leader, Kılıçdaroğlu, is not actually officially conceded defeat, and one suspects that he's slightly disillusioned and will possibly have more to say on that in the coming days. But we're hearing tonight that Rishi Sunak has spoken to President Erdogan personally this evening to congratulate him, Anna.
Yes, I mean, that is the standard way that leaders of countries conduct themselves, that whether you agree with the person who's won the election, you ring and you congratulate them. Macron and others have done the same. I mean, it is disturbing because of this authoritarian streak in Erdogan that we've seen notably in recent years, and there've been all sorts of stories about the way that his campaign has effectively cut and prevented proper debate, a proper discussion. So it doesn't bode well. Turkey faces many difficulties, and it is thought that Erdogan is not going to meet those challenges because his record would indicate that he's not able to.
Tonight he said, I respect the result. It's not just me, but it's Turkey that has won. The winner is democracy. The words from President Erdogan this evening. Anna Alessa, thanks very much for the moment. We're going to take a break. Coming up, The Guardian is reporting that the Met Police